Velasco, and thank you for reading.
Manny Pacquiao, I told, I don't think there'll be a problem for Manny.
Has its share of great fights. But every once in a while, the mind can also be controlled and muscle.
PM, only here on Para sa Bayan.
And that's the opening bell for Round by Round presented by Eastern Communications. Mabuhay Pilipinas! Welcome world! I'm Nisi Casiano.
I'm Bill Velasco. Attorney Ed Tolentino joins us later on in the show.
Last week, Nonito Donaire and John Riel Casimero were going at it on social media. As far as Nonito Donaire is concerned, the camp of John Riel Casimero is, quote-unquote, all talk. The WBC bantamweight champion said that through Richard Schaefer, the handler of Nonito Donaire, they sent a copy of the contract to MP Promotions President Sean Gibbons. Meanwhile, Casimero said he didn't receive any. Bill, what's your take on this back and forth? And do you think Nonito Donaire started to get really fed up with John Riel Casimero's antics on social media?
Well, for me, this entire thing is a monumental waste of time. No? Sa halip na magbangayan kayo ng magbangayan, eh di dapat may pag-uusap na lang na gagawin. O, saan tayo magkikita? Mag-usap yung mga manager natin, pumirma na ng kontrata. Sa tingin ko kasi, may pagmamaniobra pang ginagawa sa likuran. No? Sa tingin ko, isa sa dalawa o baka silang dalawa ay naghahanap pa ng ibang paraan para makalaban si Inoue. Kasi yun naman talaga ang gusto nilang makalaban.
Yes,
no?
that's the end goal.
Una-una, sa ating mga Pilipino, ayaw natin masyado yung naglalaban yung magkababayan. Pero hindi mo maiiwasan kasi lalong-lalo na sa mga mas mababang timbang, karamihan ng naghahari talaga doon, Pilipino. Katunayan nga, nung Agosto, di ba, sinabi ng GAB na there are 40 Filipinos in the world boxing ratings. Most of those are in the lower weight division. So talaga maghaharap at maghaharap yan. Pero ang tingin ko kasi, ano na to patong-patong na yung issue, no? Na yung mga sinabi ni Casimero na parang pinatamaan niya si Freddie Roach na ayaw niya raw ng trainer na matanda, tsaka yung maging yung pananalita ni Coach Freddie na hindi daw niya maintindihan. I don't know if he knows he's doing this, but I have a feeling that he does. No? Alam niya siguro nakakatinik siya ng damdamin, pero ginagawa pa rin naman niya. Kaya ang tanong dyan is how long it takes before something becomes personal. And I think for Nonito Donaire, it's already been very personal.
Bill, nabanggit mo na itong comments niya kay Coach Freddie Roach, and Casimero, let's admit it, Casimero struck gold with his angas ng Pinas persona. The fans love the bravado. He embraces the attention he's having on social media. Like you said, it's a different template for a Filipino boxer. But do you think he went overboard with the comments on Freddie Roach? Kasi if I'm going to look at it, Casimero should have stopped at the sentence na hindi kami nagkakaintindihan ni Freddie Roach.
Oh, tapos ginaya pa niya, no? So, for me, that's already a form of mockery, no? Tsaka lalo na dito sa Pilipinas na we are a very family-oriented culture. Pero alam mo, yun din naman ang pintas kay Nonito Donaire kung minsan na pati yung pag-aangas niya na kung minsan parang mas Amerikano siya kaysa sa Pilipino. So parang ganun ang nangyayari. Ang pinagkaiba lang mas madalas na tinatagalog ni Casimero. No? Pero yung mabalikan ko yung sinasabi ko kanina, we don't make fun of the elderly. We have laws protecting the rights of persons with disabilities. So it's a sensitive topic for Filipinos. Kaya nung ginawa ni Cuadro Alacion, tingin ko maraming nawala ng gana sa kanya. But on the other hand, he may subscribe to the belief that any publicity is good publicity. Habang hindi sila lumalaban, di ba? Di gumawa tayo ng issue para pag-usapan tayo. Yun lang naman yun eh. Kung pinag-usapan sila, at ano ba pinagkaiba ng manonood sa iyo para manalo, para kasi gustong manalo ka, o yung papanoorin ka kasi gustong matalo ka? Papanoorin ka pa rin. Di ba? So
Tama,
it's still
tama.
money in the bank for John Riel Casimero.
Yeah, speaking of money in the bank, for you, which is the best fight to make right now? Casimero versus Donaire or Casimero versus Inoue?
I think Casimero versus Inoue would be a better fight. First of all, Inoue already beat Donaire a couple of years back. And then like I mentioned, no, bihira yung maglaban yung dalawang Pilipino. It's only happened half a dozen times or less in the last
Exactly.
100 years. Kaya lang kasi gusto rin natin yung may alitan talaga sa halip na mag-away, no? But Casimero stirs the pot a lot. No, gumagawa siya talaga ng ingay. Hanggang sa ngayon, hindi pa siya pinapatulan ni Inoue. So tignan na lang natin. Kasi ang kagandahan pa niyan, it becomes a three-cornered fight. No, it's sort of like Hagler, Leonard, Hearns back in the day. No, na
Four
yung
horsemen.
isa tinalo yung isa tinalo yung isa. Tapos tignan na lang kung sino pa rin ang pinakamagaling. Yun ang gusto natin.
Yes. Pero sa akin, Bill, I prefer itong Casimero Donaire kasi people are now more invested in the drama created by the spat between Casimero and Donaire. Also, Bob Arum denied that Casimero will be fighting Inoue on December 11. So Donaire and Casimero are fighting under PBC. So there's a huge chance that we will see Casimero fighting Donaire in the near future.
Ang tingin ko dyan talagang gumagawa na lang ng issue. Tsaka, ang pinagtataka ko, parang napakatahimik ng MP Promotions sa issue ito. No, they don't comment on Casimero's behavior. They don't comment on, the last statement that we got from them, if I remember correctly, was about 2 weeks or so ago when Sean Gibbons said Donaire had a contract to fight Casimero. And why don't you grow a pair, step into the ring against Casimero? So if that still stands, then that would probably be the next fight that will happen. No? Kung hindi pa na naman nila iibahin yung kontrata.
So Bill, it's possible that it's all part of the build-up.
I have a feeling there's something in the works. For sure on Casimero's side. On Donaire's side, I don't know what's the next concrete step. Pero sa tingin ko yung kay Casimero may nangyayari diyan sa likuran. Hindi lang natin makita sa ngayon. Pero lalabas yan sa mga susunod na linggo.
Mula kila Nonito Donaire at John Riel Casimero, dumako naman tayo sa isang iringan ng dalawang boksingherong Pilipino. Pero ito naman nagkaroon ng happy ending. Nagkapatawaran na sila Mark Magsayo at Jack Tepora. Kung babalikan natin, ginulat ni Jack Tepora ng hamunin niya sa isang laban si Mark Magsayo. Marami rin siya nasabi dito kay Mark Magsayo bilang isang boksingero. Ngayon, humingi na siya ng tawad sa isang video posted on YouTube at sinasabi niya, hindi niya talaga karakter, quote-unquote, ang mag-angas. In a response, pinatawad naman ni Magsayo si Tepora through a Facebook post. Bill, nagulat ka ba na they kissed and made up that quick?
Alam mo, yung ginawa ni Jack Tepora, that's very American, calling people out. Hindi talaga ugali ng Pilipino yun, yung manghiya ka at manghamon ka.
Yes.
So bihirang-bihirang mangyari talaga sa atin yan. Pangalawa, si Tepora, 2 taon na nating hindi nababalitaan yan . Kaya parang umiiksena siya, di ba? Para siyang nagpapahiwatig na tatakbo kong presidente. Diba? Bigla siyang pumapasok sa eksena. Kaya sa akin, unang-una, napakapangit tignan nung ginawa niya. Pangalawa, yung mga nasabi niya, these are all vague issues na masyado siyang mayabang. Paano siya naging mayabang? Diba? Ano ang ginawa niya na naging mayabang? Personally knowing Mark Magsayo and having been around him for a while, hindi ganon si Mark. Mark is in most cases just like a big kid who's happy to be there.
Yes.
He's overcome so many of his own problems. So pinatawad na lang niya. Ang isa lang na hindi ko nagustuhan din sa buong pangyayaring ito, dinadamay nyo kami sa away ninyo. Kumbaga, dinaan nyo lahat sa social media. It's trial by publicity. Ba't hindi na lang kayo mag-usap? Diba? Ba't hindi na lang tinawagan ni Jack Tepora kahit Zoom pa yan? Diba? Mag-usap kayo, i-record nyo, i-post nyo. Diba? Parang nagiging telenovela yung dating sa akin kasi pwede naman kayo mag-usap ng diretso. Pareho naman kayo lalaki na hindi kayo takot sa kahit ano. Di mag-usap kayo ng harap-harapan. Hindi yung ganyan na parang dinadaan nyo pa sa ibang tao. Diba?
I agree na parang ito nga si Jack Tepora ay naghahabol ng isang malaking laban, and of course, like you mentioned, yung huling laban niya in 2019, sa kasamaang palad, natalo pa siya. Pero ito, like in the case of John Riel Casimero, a few boxers are starting to embrace this anti-hero persona. And unfortunately, it backfired on Jack Tepora. But Bill, will you agree that he should, or this boxer should be mindful and careful with the way they project themselves on social media?
Unang-una, konti lang talaga ang magaling magdala ng pagiging kontrabida. No? Sa showbiz, sa sports, konting-konti lang talaga ang kayang panindigan yung pagiging kontrabida. For example, Mike Tyson was the black hat of boxing for many years. No? Ilya Nastasi was the black hat of tennis. Na ang pagkakakilala natin sa kanila parang napakasama nilang tao. Ngayon ang problema diyan is how do you sustain it? Paano mo, 'di ba? Paano mo ipagpapatuloy 'yan, yung pagiging kontrabida mo? And the only way to do that is to keep escalating, no? Lalakihan mo ng lalakihan yung apoy, lalakihan mo ng lalakihan yung gulo. And Filipinos are not really that well versed in doing that, no? Gusto niyo ng away, pag nag-away na, ano pa susunod? Pataasan na ng boses. Mandadamay na ng mas maraming tao, 'di ba? Kaya nung sabi ko kanina, yung mga telenovela na yan, diyan tayo nasanay na kulang na lang pag-untugin na yung mga planeta para lang mapansin, no? So, how do you turn up the volume on that? Kaya yan ang mahirap. And what Mark Magsayo, for example, did was very, very smart. Just diffuse the situation, because the one thing a bully needs is for the person being bullied to escalate in return. Pag hindi ka gumante, hindi ka sumagot, wala silang bala, no? Wala silang mitya para lalong maging maangas.
And it's in our culture that we always root for the underdog. Well, I agree. It's not for everybody. Not all shoes fit the same. It's time for our Eastern Communications Fearless Fighter of the Day. And he's none other than George Cambosos, who hails from Sydney, Australia. He lives up to his moniker Ferocious, as he holds a spotless record of 19-0 with 10 wins by way of knockout. Fun fact, he served as a sparring partner for Manny Pacquiao a couple of times. Cambosos will be returning to action on October 4 against Teofimo Lopez for the WBA, IBF, WBO, and the Ring Magazine lightweight titles. And that's our Eastern Communications Fearless Fighter of the Day. This is actually a big news for Philippine boxing, because the Games and Amusements Board, or GAB, conducted a free hematoma screening test on all boxers who competed in Urdaneta, Pangasinan last September 4. Bill, as a fan as well as a long-time observer of the sport, mas magaang ba sa pakiramdam ngayon na may programa to fully safeguard the health and well-being of these athletes in the sport we love so dearly?
Alam mo, Nisi, napakagandang pangyayari ito para sa boxing, no? What is a hematoma screening? Basically, after the fights, they check on the boxers. No? A hematoma is like a bruise. But the problem with the bruise is you only know it's there when you're the one who feels it, at saka kung may pasa kang makikita. But you know, hematomas are also very damaging internally, no? Kasi hematoma could also be an indication of internal bleeding. You know, it could be an indication of worse damage, no? For Filipinos, the most common bruise we see is when we sprain an ankle, no? And tapos mangingitim siya makalipas ang ilang araw. So this is very important also, because it's also used in other countries to check on victims of physical abuse. No, yung mga ginugulpi ng asawa o yung mga bata na sinasaktan ng magulang. So the hematoma screening reveals a lot of the injuries that may not be visible to the naked eye. And talaga saludo ako sa Games and Amusement Sport dahil mula nung umupo si Chairman Baham Mitra, talagang ginagawa niya ng paraan na tumulong sa mga atleta natin dahil ang mga boksingero hindi naman organisado yan, wala namang union yan. Diba? Palipat-lipat sila ng management team. Kaya mas maganda yung ganito na meron talagang nag-aaruga sa kanila.
Totoo yan, and masyadong malaki ang risk of sustaining brain trauma and other head injuries in boxing. And sa mga hindi nakakaalam, these boxers only get a chance to undergo CT scan kapag magre-renew sila ng kanilang lisensya, which is once a year. So and a few years ago, tampered CT scans became a hot issue, and kaya nagkaroon din ng an initiative ang GAB na magkaroon ng libreng CT scan procedures para sa Filipino boxers na kukuha ng lisensya. Now, with this free hematoma screening, Bill, this is a step in the right direction.
Oo, kasi lahat ng kaya natin gawin para protektahan ng mga boksingero natin, gawin natin kasi hindi magtatagal yan. I did a story many years ago about persistent deaths in the ring here in the Philippines because in the provinces, if you're knocked out, you're required to rest at least 45 days. Ang nangyayari sa mga probinsya, gusto nila kumita kahit maliit. No? Ma-knockout man siya, susunod na linggo lalaban uli ibang pangalan ang ginagamit. Yung pag ganun, hindi na walang medical test na hindi nalalaman kung ano talagang nararamdaman. Tapos nung nakaraang linggo, di ba, we did the story about that 18-year-old Mexican boxer. May sakit siya at lumaban siya. Na sinabi niya, this is my chosen profession. If I die, I die. Sa tingin ko mali, no? And globally, if you look at the statistics, there are at least 10 to 20 boxing deaths every decade all over the world. Karamihan dyan, hindi lang natin nababalitaan. Pero pinakamaraming nangyari noong 1920s. There were over 200 boxing deaths in that decade alone. And most of them were really brain injuries. Kaya maganda to para makita talaga kung ano nangyayari sa loob ng katawan ng boksingero.
And also, it extends the longevity of our boxer. And we're hoping that GAB can sustain its projects to make boxing a much safer sport in the country in the years to come. 2 Filipino boxers along with 6 other athletes from different sports made it to the new list of Olympic Solidarity Scholarship grants recently approved during a General Assembly of the Philippine Olympic Committee. They will be receiving 47,000 a month. Bill, ang nabigyan ng scholarship ay hindi basta-basta. Rogen Ladon, an Olympian, bronze medalist in the IBA World Championship, silver medalist in the Asian Games, and as well as a SEA Games gold medalist. On the other hand, you have Ira Villegas, a bronze medalist in the 2019 SEA Games. We were this close to a gold medal in boxing in Tokyo, pero as someone who has seen both the good and the bad times of Philippine boxing, whether it's at the pro or amateur level, how great is it to see that we're already plotting the best possible lineup in order to capture the elusive Olympic gold medal in boxing?
Ang kagandahan kasi sa Olympic Solidarity, this is unsolicited. It's basically the IOC going out of its way to help athletes. At ang pakay nito, unang-una, tinutulungan yung mga atleta na makapag-aral at makapag-ensayo ng mas maganda. Hindi na nila problemahin yon. When you think about it, yung $7,500 divided among 8 athletes, that's almost $1,000 a month. No? Malaking bagay yan dito sa Pilipinas. That's more than enough to support a small family. So if you look at that, ang laking bagay, laking ginhawa niyan dahil yung mga allowances ng mga atleta, bagamat hindi naman sila kailangan talaga bigyan ng allowance sa Philippine Sports Commission, pinapadala nila madalas sa probinsya. So ang natitira sa kanila, kakarampot na lang. At nagiging issue pa yan dahil siyempre bibili pa yan ng mga vitamins na kung ano-ano pang mga pangangailangan nila. Kaya maganda ito because this was a major issue in previous administrations of the Philippine Olympic Committee where the money allocated for athletes would either disappear or in cases of corruption or malversation of funds, the IOC would stop sending money for the athlete scholarships. Kaya magandang senyales ito dahil ang bango-bango ng Philippine Olympic Committee natin ngayon dahil sa nangyari sa Tokyo at mas marami silang matutulungang atleta. And I like what you said, no? Pinaghahandaan na natin ang kinabukasan ng mga susunod na Olimpiada dahil ito na, natutulungan na natin yung mga atleta na sa tingin natin may kakayahang sumabak sa susunod na Olympics na malapit na rin.
Naiisip mo na ba yung posibleng lineup for Paris Olympics? Especially, we already had a very special group in Tokyo. Now, if we're going to look at it, we still have Nesty Petesio, Carlo Palam, who are still eligible for Paris. Ngayon, possible, makakasama pa nila ulit si Rogen Ladon, who's a 2016 Rio veteran, plus an up-and-comer like Ira Villegas.
Maganda yung lineup. Now, people are asking, what about, Yumir Marshall? Which other boxers can make it? Now, again, it depends. If Aiba will be back in the picture, what is their rule for pros who will continue to fight in the Olympics? No? If I remember correctly, I think there's a maximum of five pro fights before for you to still be allowed to fight in international amateur competition. Pero kung wala ni Aiba, depende na sa IOC yan kung papayagan nila yung mga pro. No? Pero hindi mo na mapipigilan kasi ang ganda na ng pinakita ng mga boksingero natin nung nakaraan. Now, the question I always raise, there will be elections in the Philippines in 2022. Will the next administration support sports the way this administration has? No? Kasi hindi natin alam anong magiging kinabukasan pag wala ng Butch Ramirez as chairman of the Philippine Sports Commission. No, kasi doon nanggagaling ang pera. Hindi natin alam kung anong magiging timpla ng Kongreso. O kung bibigyan pa rin ng budget, kung anong mangyayari sa PAGCOR. Because remember, this is the first time since 1992 that PAGCOR is correctly remitting funds to the Philippine Sports Commission. That's one of the first things the Duterte administration addressed. No? PAGCOR Chairman Andrea Domingo was instructed to fix the computation. Dahil dati, ang ginagawa, binabawas muna yung kalahati na pinapadala sa National Treasury. When it's supposed to be the other way around. They remove the franchise tax first, 5% goes to the Philippine Sports Commission, and then 50% to the National Treasury. Kaya ngayon wala nang reklamo sa pera yung mga atleta natin. Ang laki pa ng nagugol natin sa Southeast Asian Games. Kaya maganda ang naging bunga nito dahil andyan na yung pera at talagang sapat na para sa mga atleta.
For our next segment, we turn it over to Attorney Ed Tolentino, who will run down a list of boxers who tried their hand at mixed martial arts.
Hello guys, Attorney Ed Tolentino here and welcome sa trivia portion ng Round by Round. Trending ngayon ang nagiging pagpasok ng mga dating MMA stars o mixed martial arts sa mundo ng pro boxing. Kamakailan inireport ng Round by Round ang naging panalo ni ex-UFC star Vitor Belfort kontra sa dating World Heavyweight Boxing Champion Evander Holyfield. Bago si Belfort, nandyan si Anderson Silva, si Conor McGregor na pumasok na rin sa mundo ng pro boxing. Pero karamihan sa mga MMA stars na ito, laos na. Wala nang patutunguhan ng career kaya pumasok sa pro boxing kung saan malalaking premyo ang nakataya. Baliktarin natin ang sitwasyon para sa ating trivia portion. Meron bang mga sikat na pro boxing champions na pumasok naman sa mundo ng mixed martial arts? Meron tayong 3 pangalan, sikat na boxing champions na pumasok sa MMA. Pag-usapan natin ang kanilang naging kapalaran sa mundo ng mixed martial arts. Si Ricardo Mayorga ng Nicaragua ay isa sa mga original bad boys ng pro boxing. In the early 2000, he was a 2-division world champion, welterweight at junior middleweight. Nakaharap niya sina Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad at Shane Mosley. By 2011, nang siya matalo kontra kay Miguel Angel Cotto, abay tapos na ang boxing career ni Ricardo Mayorga. Kaya naman pumasok siya sa mundo ng mixed martial arts. In 2013, nakaharap in a mixed martial arts match ni Mayorga si Wesley Tiffer. Idineklarang panalo si Mayorga but the fight was changed to a no contest. Hindi kabisado ni Mayorga MMA at nahuli siyang sinipa ang likod ni Tiffer, bagay na isang no-no sa MMA. Kaya ang laban ni Mayorga sa MMA idideklarang no contest. Si James Toney ng Amerika ay lumaban from 1988 to 2017. He was a 3-division world boxing champion, kampiyon sa middleweight, super middleweight at cruiserweight divisions. In 2005, tinalo nga ni James Toney for the heavyweight title si John Ruiz, pero nabaliwala na nullify ang kanyang panalo because he tested positive for banned substances. By 2010, laos na sa pro boxing si James Toney at pinasok niya ang mundo ng MMA, particular ang UFC. Nakaharap ni James Toney in an MMA match ang dating UFC heavyweight champion na si Randy Couture. Within 3 minutes, sumuko itong si James Toney who was out of shape after receiving an arm triangle choke mula kay Randy Couture. Hindi kabisado ni James Toney ang MMA. In fact, nung siya'y sumurrender, he did not know how to tap out. Instead of tapping out, he was waving his hand to the referee. Si Ray Mercer ng Amerika ay 1988 Olympic boxing champion at World Heavyweight Boxing Champion in 1991. By 2003, laos na si Ray Mercer at pumasok siya sa mundo ng mixed martial arts hoping to extend his career. Una siyang lumuhok sa mga kickboxing tournaments in Japan. In 2007, nakaharap ni Ray Mercer sa isang MMA match ang street fighting legend na si Kimbo Slice. Within 1 minute, gamit ang isang guillotine choke, pinasuko ni Kimbo Slice itong si Ray Mercer. At yan mga kaibigan, ang ilan sa mga sikat na pro boxing champions na sumabak sa MMA. Palibas ay laos na at hindi kabisado ang style ng MMA, hindi nagtagal ang karera ng mga nasabing pro boxing champions.
And that's the final bell for today's episode of Round by Round presented by Eastern Communications. I'm Nisi Icasiano.
I'm Bill Velasco. We're on Facebook at 9 p.m. Mondays to Fridays and on our YouTube channel immediately after. So like, share, follow, subscribe, and hit that notification button now.
Boy at Season, Ryan Songalia, and Dennis Principe are working the fights for you tomorrow. So catch us on the next Round by Round, all boxing, all Filipino, all the time. See you.